It is now my honor to introduce our graduation speaker for today. Dr. Sandy Chong is a Curtin alumna. She graduated with a bachelor's degree of commerce in marketing with first-class honors in 1996 and with a PhD in digital commerce and innovation adoption in 2003. While at Curtin, she was frequently on the Vice Chancellor's list and was a recipient of a Curtin Overseas Student Scholarship. She is also a Harvard alumna and State Director of the Australian Harvard Women. Sandy is currently an adjunct professor at Curtin and a member of the faculty of Business and Law's MBA and Executive Education Advisory Panel. She is the principal of Verity Consulting and the winner of the 2020 US Stevie International Business Award for Executive of the Year and Entrepreneur of the Year. The 2019 Asia's Top Sustainability Woman of the Year, and the 2016 Singapore Management Consultant of the Year. Sandy is the first Asian person to be appointed to the board of the WA Indigenous Tourism Council and the first Asian woman to be elected the president of the United Nations Association of WA. She has over 15 years' experience leading international growth, communication, and strategic alliance projects, advising Australian and Singaporean trade agencies and multinational companies such as American Express, Yahoo, Sun Microsystems, and Apple, to name just a few. She is the chair of the ASEAN Business Alliance to promote trade and investment in the region, and she serves on the boards in Silicon Valley and Singapore. Last but not least, Sandy is also the founding chair of the UN Sustainable Development Goals Business Forum in WA, the international mentor of the Cherry Blair Foundation for Women, and was a delegate representing Australia to the 63rd session of the Commission of Status on Women at the UNHQ in New York. In 2020, Sandy was named the Australian Community Citizen of the Year by the Governor for her contribution locally and abroad. Please join me in welcoming Sandy to give today's graduation address.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly honored to be invited to celebrate your graduation today. I still remember my own graduation day, where I stood where you are, with my heart and mind full of conflicting emotions. There was elation, but also sadness. A bit of nostalgia, coupled with excitement. A real sense of achievement, but also so much uncertainty about what happens next. After so many years of university, studies, and well over a decade of classrooms and teachers before that, what now? So, what piece of wisdom can I impart to you about my journey that will somehow ease your transition from the university back to your parents' home? Yes, this is no joke, and this is where it gets serious. You are graduating at an unprecedented time when many of the rules of the games have changed and will continue to change as you begin your professional lives. After more than a year of interrupted studies, disrupted social lives, and postponed work opportunities, your generation is entering a labor market still struggling from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the ILO, the International Labour Organization, to be young today means to be twice as likely to be unemployed. Even before COVID-19 happened, 276 million people, particularly those between 18 to 25, do not have a job. So when the COVID hit, the young people are the first to be cut. And if this crisis is like any other crisis, when it comes to recovery, you will also be the last to be rehired. And so, while we have been very lucky that in Australia the pandemic has not infected or killed many young people in similar numbers to the tragedy that has been taking place elsewhere in the world, we do need to bear in mind that there's a lot of work to do in order to build back better. And so, to be blunt, seeing that the next few years are going to be hard and challenging for you, what would you need to do? And what can you do to contribute to the future? I'm telling you that these are some scary headlines, but don't worry, there are also some incredible opportunities out there. It's not all doom and gloom, despite what recent climate findings may reveal. You are in fact not only graduating in a world where inequality and uncertainty is rife, but also in a world and at a time where more people than ever are saying that a better world is possible. More and more companies are embracing the fact that in addition to making a profit, they also have a responsibility to do so in a way which is respectful to the environment and of the society. The past year has seen the pandemic ravage the world, but also social movement rise up to fight for people's rights, the right for minorities, for women, for indigenous people, and the planet itself. Sustainability, equality, good governance, and respect. These are the words I now hear constantly in boardrooms and financial markets. When I speak to the business leaders and elected officials, sure, a lot of it is just buzzwords, but a lot of that is also not. Never before in my lifetime have I seen so many people in private and public sector talking about taking real action and trying to improve the state of the world. Not a day goes by when I'm not approached by a company or individual to learn more about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It is a collection of 17 interlinked targets adopted by 193 state members of the UN around the world in 2015 to achieve a better world and a sustainable future for all. They are supported by governments. They are also supported by private sectors, civil society, because these are the goals for everyone, not just for developing countries, for us too. And we need to get our priorities right. If you want to end poverty and hunger, you can do that. If you want to promote good health and well-being, you can do that too. Do you really want to live in a world with quality education for everyone, irregardless of their gender, of their race? If yes, then it's possible. And with that, we can achieve decent work and economic growth. What about living in a sustainable city with affordable and clean energy, innovative industries and infrastructure? Yep, we've got you covered there. And what about our planet? Don't all of us want a world that is not always seemingly on fire, or dealing with a pandemic because we disrupted our natural environment and allowed strange viruses to jump from one animal to humans? Once again, these are the goals to achieve, and along with very specific targets, we can get there. And we can get there by measuring how well they're doing. So why do I mention this? Well, because as a world leader, and in the future, you'll be the business leader, and even leaders at the local level, we must all start thinking seriously about the world after this pandemic. It is clear that very few people want to go back to how things were. People want better. People expect better. We want to build back better. And this is where you play a major role for how you and your generation respond to this crisis and how it's going to change the world. In times of crisis, we no longer have the luxury of waiting for you to become future leaders. You need to be the leader now that we need. We need you to raise your voices, work hard to ensure the world you leave behind is better than the one that you are inheriting now. It is no easy task, but what does this mean to you concretely? How do you choose the path, whether to climb a corporate ladder, to build your own startup, or face your own challenge at many phases of your life in the years to come? How do you prove your worth to others? Working really hard, thinking larger than what you've been taught at the university. For example, if you learn about sales and marketing, think about who will be your biggest consumer on this planet and the next decade. And if they are going to be content with the same old way of us exploiting the planet to get their fix, then you have to fix it. No one else is going to do that. And if you're wondering what possible role commerce could play in tackling all the extraordinary problems I've mentioned earlier, remember that commerce is merely a tool. It's neither a bad thing or a good thing. It is the way it is being used, and it's the final comprehension outcomes that counts. On one extreme, a person can make valuable contribution for all in the long term. On the other extreme, the person could also amass a lot of fortune for himself or herself at the expense of everyone else. We are warned that change is accelerating, and the long-term consequences are no longer many generations into the future, but are already in our lifetime. Look at the headlines. It's happening right now. There is no such thing as elsewhere anymore. We are in such an interconnected world that issues like pollution, exploitations, is no longer foreign to us. What happens half a world affects us here. And if you're not entirely convinced by this argument, look no further than the lessons of this pandemic and the reality that poverty and ill health everywhere can affect us. As business graduates, we have the power of knowledge, the tools, responsibility to help the world to be more secure, more peaceful, and more equal. Part of that is facing reality. We live in a world in which global supply chain has been tainted by slavery and forced labor. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the technologies we use all have a human cost involved. The cost, price, and environmental degradation in human lives and in dignity lost. Companies who produce these are increasingly having to face the reality in order to do business, to answer to their shareholders, and to address their customers. This is our collective opportunity to recognize the problem, and more importantly, to overcome them instead of denying them, making excuses for them. Well, this brings back to being aware. Information is not equal, as we all know. Information is not free of bias. The sources where we get our information all have an agenda, and we can no longer accept at face value what ends up in our social media feeds and gets shared by friends and family. We must be aware of that and be aware as well that we too have biases, that we have blind spots, and that just because you've always thought one way, it doesn't mean our way is right. But you also have the tool to overcome this. Your education would have taught you to look at problems from multiple perspectives and research your solution. You all have written papers, faced horrible tasks of finding sources and annotating quotes, and note, that's what I miss using, and all that myriad of details which academia demands of you. Well, that same mindset, those same skills will help you sort out the opinions from the facts. That's what I learned from my Harvard Times. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And please, help your friends and family and the community face the reality with confidence. However, in order for us to gain this smarter, more efficient perspective, we also need to take a step back, pause, and think. We need our minds to be quiet and disciplined. And so, if there's anything I could say to you, I would say to myself when I was younger, it would be the following. Care less about what other people think about you. Do away with naysayers, the emotion vampires, and those who constantly put you down. Think for yourself and remove yourself from toxic environment as soon as you detect one. Life is short. Time spent on combating someone is better spent on yourself and on the community and the people who need it. And one thing, stand behind your values. They're like a shield. It doesn't matter how tall, how short, how you look, who you are. People can attack all that, but they can't attack your values. I wish I could give you the answer you seek, but the truth is that no one knows it all, and that no one can. And that's the beauty of life. You get to explore, you get to discover, you get to rediscover, and if you're lucky enough, you may even get to fail. But if you fail, you've come a long way, and you have the strength to do anything because you have those values standing behind you. So, what decision will you make when push comes to shove? when it comes to survival. The short term is vital for survival, such as security, legality, and viability. The long term is vital for meaning such as vision, investment, and building lives. Both are important. When you're young and bright, the world seems full of endless opportunities. The world rotates around you. It is easy to think that everything is exciting, prolific, and it would happen in an instant, in your lifetime. The truth is, life can be dull. It can be monotonous. It can be at times very unsatisfying. The role of failure can take a toll on our aspirations and hopes. But this is where enduring values count, and of course, grit. I have once asked my mentor, at what point do you give up? And where is the fine line of giving up because you can no longer persist, or because there is something better, something more meaningful for you out there? He said, passion. If you're dealing with what you're passionate about, you feel happy. Then you wouldn't mind the failure because you love the process of it. Be willing to sacrifice time and effort to do things well. Become good at what you're doing. Love to learn and learn to hustle. That's what the world requires you now. Other values I hold to this day that may help you beyond your graduate years are integrity, kindness, and perseverance. These must be combined with awareness and wariness. There is no license to be naive. One must be shrewd. In the commercial world, you must give before you can get. And so what's the definition of success? Well, it changes. As you grow, you realize that the definition of success means different things to different people. Find your own definition. For me, the most important thing in life is to live life with purpose and not to give into peer pressure or the naysayer. What is your measure of success? And do you think it will be the same in 5 years' time? And then in 10 years' time? Albert Einstein once said, strive not to become a person of success, but rather a person of value. Given my years of serving the community locally and internationally, I have come to learn that people will remember the impact and contribution you made to them. What have you taken from them? And what have you given back? A favorite poet of mine, Maya Angelou, once quoted, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But they will never forget how you make them feel. This may seem like a daunting responsibility, but you're well prepared for this. You're better prepared than I ever was at your age. You're graduating with an amazing array of skills and knowledge, which far surpass those previous generations. You have insights into human conditions and have lived through a pandemic and seen so plainly from both of the best and the worst in this world. You're well placed to find us a way forward. Now, it is your time to put those skills into test. Yeah? And finally, I would like to say to everyone who has touched our lives, thank you so much. To parents who have sacrificed everything they've got to get us here. To teachers who instill in us a passion for learning. To university staff who made our campus lives as amazing as possible. To mentors who help us decide what path to take. To friends who were there for study sessions and late night suppers in Macca's and Northbridge, and everything in between. And to those we depend on, without these people, there will be no joy of being here and no fun to advance ourselves. I'm sure most of us will remember this day, if not the night after, then clearly for the rest of our lives. Congratulations and good luck.
Sandy, on behalf of Curtin University, I would like to thank you for delivering the graduation address. Your message to our graduates was both inspiring and confronting. The good news is that I know that today's graduates are well prepared for both the challenges and the opportunities ahead of them. I know that they are not only bright and articulate, but they are also kind, courageous, and socially minded. I know that they understand the obligations that come with the world-class education that they have just received. And finally, I know that they are the generation of leaders that the world needs now. Sandy, we are very proud that you are a Curtin graduate. Your commitment to your community and your planet is exemplary. Can I please ask everyone who is here today to join me in thanking Sandy one more time for her inspiring address?